afternoon. Welcome to the BBC News at 1. The Environment Agency has warned that weather conditions in some parts of Britain could be the worst seen for 5 to 10 years. The southwest saw the worst of this morning's storm, with the Met Office warning of strong winds and rain in Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. The Environment Agency has now issued 8 severe flood warnings, which indicate a risk to life across England and Wales, with heavy rain and gusts of 60 miles an hour. Well, there are now 136 flood warnings in place overall, a lower category, but it still requires people to take action. In Scotland, a tidal surge is expected shortly around the Firth of Clyde, Solway, Firth and Ayrshire. The Government's Emergency Committee is also due to meet around now to discuss the situation. And we'll be assessing the weather conditions across the UK with our correspondents, Hal Griff, who's in Newport in South Wales, James Cook in Ardrossan in North Ayrshire, and Andy Martin in Belfast. First, though, to John Kay, who's on the beach at Perranporth in Cornwall. John.
Kate, enormous waves again here this lunchtime, but at least for now they're way outside the beach itself. A very different story along this coast first thing this morning, though. The sea came all the way in here, going over the top of the wall, flooding properties up the road there that haven't been flooded for decades. The one advantage, though, living near a beach is there's a ready supply of sand, so people sandbagging again this lunchtime, preparing for more storms yet to come. Cornwall's early morning wake-up call. This was Newquay at high tide as the latest storm thundered in. Crowds gathered well before dawn, warned by the authorities to keep a safe distance.
Look at that. That's spectacular, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic.
Have you ever seen it this high before?
No, I haven't. No, I've lived it all my life and I've never seen it like that before.
That's an absolutely awesome sight. Frightening power. You wouldn't want to be in the sea or too close to it. It's really frightening.
In the fishing port of Looe, around 20 properties were flooded as the already high tide was whipped up further by howling winds. In the seaside town of Perranporth, a similar story. Just 3 days ago, they were celebrating New Year in this pub. Now they wish 2014 had stayed well away.
So this is a kitchen with about 6 inches of water.
Janine only took over this cafe 3 months ago, but last night the sea came right in. Now she and her team are preparing for the next surge. She feels councils should be compelled by law to provide sandbags for vulnerable properties. At the moment, that's not the case.
There's no point in bringing them when we're flooded or whilst we're flooding. We need them before that to prevent it.
If you'd had more sandbags in time last night, do you think your cafe could have been saved?
I don't think it would have been as bad as it was.
This afternoon, Janine has taken matters into her own hands, filling bags with sand from the beach before the next tidal surge tonight.
We've got another low-pressure system coming through this weekend, and it may move on into the weeks to come as well. And with the ground saturated as it is, even moderate amounts of rain could cause more flooding.
The coast of West Wales has been battered by the Irish Sea. This coastal road in Pembrokeshire ripped apart by the waves. And the Victorian prom at Aberystwyth has also been left in tatters. Along the notorious River Severn in Gloucestershire, there has been some flooding, but it's not been as bad as many feared. The winds not quite as high as they might have been, so far at least. Well, we saw the sandbags being filled up on the beach. This is where they end up at these properties along the street here. There are high tides again tonight, with waves in some places expected to be 10 metres high, so you can understand why people are taking whatever precautions they want. So the parish council here in Perranporth has asked local people to come down to the beach later this afternoon and club together, muck in, try to fill as many bags as they can to try to protect as many properties. It's strange because the winds have dropped now, that the rain is falling a bit, but it's not that dramatic. But at the same time, they're warning that there's more to come. The police here say this is an ongoing major incident and it's set to last into the weekend. Kate.
OK, John. Well, thank you for that update. And as we heard in John's report, also been flooding in West Wales, about 30 properties have been affected in Cardigan, where a pregnant woman has been rescued. Some people are still trapped in their homes. Howell Griffiths is in Newport for us with more. Give us the latest update then, Howell.
Yes, high winds still whipping around the Welsh coastline. They arrived shortly after high tide times this morning, and that may just have been enough to avert major flooding on the coastlines. We're here in Newport on the edge of a static caravan park, which had to be evacuated last night at about 10 o'clock. The police turned up and told people there was a red alert and they should leave. Now, they came back this morning to find, thankfully, the water hadn't overtopped these flood defences. However, this afternoon, they've been warned that the high tide tonight, expected about 8:45, may well add further risk, and so they'll be evacuated again this evening. Around Wales, 870 miles of coastline, flood alert all the way around, and so places, as you mentioned, in Cardigan, further north in Barmouth, already affected, and concerned now this lunchtime about North Wales. It's also had an impact on traffic and travel. Some minor roads closed and a lot of the rail network underwater. The line between here, Newport and Cardiff, underwater. Lines between Swansea and West Wales also affected. So people are trying to make their way around the country, having their journeys disrupted and concerned about what the weekend may bring.
No, indeed. We'll look at that shortly. Howell, thank you very much for the time being. Scotland now then, and the Scottish Environment Protection Agency is currently issued 38 flood warnings. At present, none of them are severe, but let's get an update from James Cook, who's in Ardrossan in North Ayrshire for us. And the situation there then, James?
Yes, quite serious really in terms of the storm surge that is now just coming ashore. You can see it's peaking any minute now, and you can see the force of that water as it's coming over the shorefront here in Ardrossan, breaking against the shorefront, and that's causing flooding to the roads. You can see the road along the shorefront here has been shut, and this is a similar picture on the coastal roads up and down the west coast of Scotland at the moment. We are being told that there are problems with flooding here in Ayrshire, also further south in Dumfries and Galloway. There have been some problems further north as well. No reports of serious or damaging flooding to property at the moment, but it is, as I say, only due to peak around now. High tide due at 1:20, and this surge of water expected in the minutes after that to reach its peak as well. Winds gusting not at their strongest levels, but it's not been the kind of storm that's caused the problems. It's been the coastal water that's come ashore, but winds gusting at more than 60 miles an hour in parts of Scotland, and as you say, nearly 40 flood warnings in place. So the advice really is for people just to keep away from the coastline and to keep off roads that are shut.
Indeed, James, thank you very much for that update then for Scotland. Predictions with regard to the level of flooding have been downgraded just slightly in Northern Ireland. Andy Martin is in East Belfast for us now. Is that expected to change, or has Northern Ireland seen the worst of it?
I think Northern Ireland, the worst of it has passed for Northern Ireland. There have been huge concerns just under an hour ago that the high tide might cause difficulties in this part of Sydenham. You'll be able to see on the railway bridge just behind me, there's no really metres of free air here, but you can see where the high tide reached on this railway bridge. And the difficulty, of course, with that is that this is the Conswater behind me, until very windy, obviously. But to the left of your screen is an intensely built-up area of East Belfast. There are thousands of homes here, and at ground level around the Conswater River, there have been thousands and thousands of sandbags put in case this river spilled over and flooded those thousands of homes. That hasn't happened since 1974, and in fact, the tactical support group of the police service of Northern Ireland, which frankly is more used to getting involved in riot situations, was on standby here to pull anybody from their houses should they get into any difficulties. The Coast Guard has been here with boats, but the high tide passed about 50 minutes ago and there was no flooding. So Northern Ireland for the most part has avoided all of the difficulties here. We are getting an indication that some parts of the north coast in Cushendall around County Antrim coast are experiencing difficulties at the moment, but for the most part Northern Ireland has got away fairly easily so far.
Okay, the atmosphere is a fluid wrapped around the world, and if something unusual is happening in one part of the world, it's more than likely because something unusual is happening in another part of the world. And what's happening The other side of the pond in North America is pretty unusual, and as much as we have a very, very tight temperature contrast with intensely cold air coming down from the Arctic, we've seen a lot of snow across parts of North America in the last few days. And it's this tight temperature contrast which actually drives the jet stream. Jet stream is a conductor of a lot of our weather, if you like, and the stronger the jet stream, the more intense our storm systems are at the surface. And there it goes, it's whizzing across the Atlantic, way up in the atmosphere, but what it tends to do is spin up low-pressure systems at the surface. And the stronger the jet stream, the stronger those low-pressure systems, those storm systems. That's what we've had one after another for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's exactly what we've got at the moment. So if I lay on the satellite picture, you can see what's happening right now with yet another in a series of storms coiling around, heading our way, and that's what's responsible for these really strong winds at the moment. No end in sight. If we look ahead through this week, we're going to see more wind, more rain. Incidentally, for a time on Saturday, we could well see some snow added into the mix across some northern areas. Have to keep an eye on that. But all eyes to the west, where we've got the next beast, the next explosively developing storm coming along underneath that jet stream, which means more wind and rain for all of us through Sunday. We'll keep a very close eye on that, but no real sign of the weather settling down in the near term, as long as that jet stream remains very strong indeed.
Right, okay. Well, obviously we'll have a full update from you